At the start of the 2025 NCAA football season, the Tennessee Volunteers really found themselves in an interesting position with their five-star prospect and starting quarterback, Nico Iamaleava, going back to the university requesting more money in NIL pay, only for Tennessee to inevitably make the right choice and say no, led to them really changing the entire culture of their entire team. And with his departure in such a public and negative fashion, and then bringing in a new quarterback, ironically from the same school that Nico was transferring to, and Joey Aguilar out of UCLA, they were really in a spot where they needed to find new leadership and new culture setters on this roster. And that's where I want to start this video. Is I want to introduce you guys to Miles Kitsleman. This is a player who, in and amongst all of this controversy and turnover and craziness that was going on, this is a guy who stepped up as a locker room guy, as a leader. This is someone that was taking on a lot of the SEC media days. He was going into all the press conferences and really being the guy who Tennessee chose to represent them and speak on their behalf in a lot of situations. And when we look at players and the way that they, I guess, are prospected out and what they project as in the NFL, something that I think is really understated and under-recognized when it comes to evaluating prospects is kind of the personal intangibles that aren't necessarily as measurable as things like your bench press or your 40 time. And when we look at Miles Kitsleman, a guy who has decent size at 6'5", 251 pounds, unfortunately, his measurables are not that great. He's got pretty good size. He's got, pretty average weight. But in terms of his athletic prowess, he did not test that well. Ran a very slow 40 time, had a very unimpressive 10-yard split, and was pretty middle in the pack when it came to his vertical jump. On top of that, this is a little bit of an older prospect. He was a JUCO transfer into Alabama. He had some difficulty making it onto the roster there, which is the reason that he transferred to Tennessee to begin with, played out a year there, and then had to also apply for an additional year of eligibility to play this past season with Tennessee, where later in the year, I do believe he battled a little bit of injury, which is still looming over his head. And collectively, because of all of this, they have him ranked right now as prospect number 222 in this class, which is good enough to be early 7th round. So this guy is one of the last tight ends ranked in his class. He's on the fringe of even being drafted this year. But I think there's a lot of stuff that's really good about Kitsleman that I think we should take into consideration. And I think he's a lot better than what a lot of draft experts are kind of projecting him to be. And I think a lot of that is they're just not taking the time to read between the lines and kind of look at what this guy does well and what he brings to a team. And what I'm going to preface before we get into this film here is we live in an NFL today that is dominated by multiple tight end sets. It's a copycat league and what we've seen a huge expansion of. And I think this is because we have the Kyle Shanahan tree that's just taking over the NFL right now with guys like Sean McVay, with Mike and Matt LaFleur, both in Arizona and Green Bay, with Liam Cohen over in Jacksonville. There's so many people that are adopting this same type of scheme of quarterback under center, multiple tight ends, emphasizing and pounding the rock, and then building play action off of that in those same formations. So the need for not only multiple tight ends, but tight ends who can help out quite a bit in blocking setups, in passing situations, in running situations, and contribute more holistically to an offense is very important. And that's Miles Kitsleman's strength. That's where I think this guy is unbelievably valuable. While he's not the same level of athlete and pass catcher as some of these higher prospects on the board, what he brings you is an elite background as a pass blocker specifically, and I think he's got the opportunity to develop into a much better run blocker than what people are making him out to be. Coming out of high school, this was a guy who, for the most part of his high school career, was on the offensive line and a defensive end. It wasn't until his upperclassman years where he switched over to tight end and really flourished in that role over at Linden High School. So this is a guy who understands what it means to be an offensive lineman. And what we're going to see in the film when we go to this now is eventually in those blocking schemes, you're going to see a guy who's able to recognize and diagnose stunts in pass protection. He's going to have a good stable base and absorb contact from stronger and bigger linebackers and defensive ends, even with a head of steam. There is room for development, and I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I think this is the best tight end in the class, super underrated. He's a lower tight end prospect for a lot of really valid reasons. However, this is where I want to also showcase some of his intelligence as a route runner. He just doesn't have as deep a route tree. He just does a few things, and he does them really well and really intelligently. He's really good at playing within his means. So we're going to see some versatility at him in this set right here. This is Miles Kitsleman right here. They have him lined up actually out of the slot, which is really untraditional for what a lot of people expect from him. When you look at a blocking tight end like him, usually you're going to see them more inline connected to the offensive line here, and there's not going to be much variety. However, Tennessee actually used him in multiple different roles. They had him motioned out as a slot receiver here. They had him in line in the majority of his snaps. And then even they've lined him up in fullback sets in these weird pseudo packages where he's not really on the line of scrimmage, but in fact, like kind of behind one of the tackles as almost a spot you would put a fullback. And he's actually scored rushing touchdowns as a fullback. So what we're going to see here is it's 3rd and 5. It's a minute left until the half, and they got to get down the field and they got to try and get some points. So they're going to try and draw up a quick out route here, so that way they can get the first down here, convert it, and then get out of bounds and stop the clock and live to see another day. So what they're going to do is they're going to have a clear out with this guy right here and eat up some of the zone. And then you're going to see Kitsleman show some good run routing route, good timing with Nico, and boom, connection, absorb the first round of contact, keep going, drag that guy, and it takes another 2, so 3 in total to bring him down. So now we're farther down in this Vanderbilt game. It's the same situation, just now with 30 seconds left. It's a 1st and 10 situation, and we need to try and get some points. They're going to try and draw up a quick shot into the end zone here, and you're going to see where I think Kitsleman can really thrive. Because if you're Vanderbilt right now, and you're doing a holistic scouting report on Tennessee Volunteers and their offense and what they bring to the table, I bet everything they saw about Kitsleman here is this is a blocker. If you see him on the field, he is not going to be a primary threat, especially in a high priority situation where it's 30 seconds to the half and the game is tied. We're not going to be thinking they're going to Kitsleman. So they're going to fake a draw play here, and to help sell the draw, Kitsleman's going to step up and really sell it as a blocker. So here we go. Steps up, and he starts moving like he's going to the second level, like he's going to pick up these linebackers at the second level. And these linebackers are reading it like, okay, we've got their primary blocking tight end stepping up to the second level. They're handing it off to this running back who's going to try and set them up probably for a field goal since they have the one timeout left here in the half. So they think they're playing for 3, and we just need to get this guy down, and they're probably playing for position, so he's probably trying to get centered right here. But what he ends up doing is starts faking like he's doing that, and it even starts to draw the safety in right here. So now he's got 2 guys biting on him right here. He's got a safety coming down. He's got 3 guys biting on this right now. And then right when he sees them start to take their steps in, he jukes right around them, puts a foot in the ground, gives it everything he's got, and then gets up there for the touchdown, gets both feet down. That's a touchdown that's good on Sundays just as much as it is on Saturdays. Great play. Here we are again. We got Kitsleman lined up right here, kind of in an inline roll, but a little bit off from the tackle. And he's kind of lined up right here with an edge. And what you're going to see him do is just take over the flat area over here. And this isn't anything too special, but you just see a little bit better rotation and athletic ability to read, watch the play come in, and then adjust his body to make the catch on the back shoulder. So now where is he here? This is Miles Kitsleman right here. I love this route by him. So this is where I think he's, even though he's not the most athletic guy, he shows a lot of intelligence in how he runs his routes and how he gets to his spot. And I think that's super important as a tight end. You need to be able to understand your skill set, play within your means, and match up against these defenders in a way where you can help your team make plays. So what he's doing is he's on a drag. He was in line, and he's in a drag kind of coming across the middle of the field right here. So what he does instantly is he starts going up the field and really gets that left arm, that left shoulder onto this defender and kind of keeps him glued there. And he's going to keep moving up, keep moving up, keep moving up. And then right when he's ready to break on this route, he's going to put a foot in the ground and he's going to move kind of back downhill. So here he is, and then boom, puts a foot in the ground. And then you can see he starts working back towards the offense here, towards the quarterback, which is going to do a couple of things. Keeping him on that left shoulder is going to set it up so right when he does get that break, you're going to see a level of separation. And then moving back towards where the ball is coming to you from is going to continue to keep that defender on your back and out of position to make a break up on this play. And he keeps coming into it, makes a good hands catch, tucks it in, and then gets in there within for a 1st and goal on the 4, I believe. Real heads up, smart route running to be able to make a smart play on the ball. So here he is again. So this is Kitsleman right here. He's going to sell it like he's going on this little flat route over here, similar to what you saw him catch a touchdown on earlier in this game. So he's going to go out there, and right when he sees this linebacker continue to follow him there and starts to kind of get a little off balance, he's going to put a hard foot in the ground and then just go upfield, right down these hash marks. And this is Aguilar, this is this year, sees him doing it, gets it right on his hands, and then he keeps moving forward. And he's so big and strong that you have to just take him out at the legs. But that's a, 15, 16-yard gain right there for them? So here we are in the goal line. This is another amazing play on his part. This is just, once again, he knows what people expect from him. They expect him to just be this true blocking tight end. And I think they really undervalue his ability to be a pass catcher, especially in goal line situations. So once again, he's going to do a great job selling the block. He's literally blocking this guy. He's quite literally blocking this guy. But funny enough, he's going to rip out of that block, cut inside, and now become a pass catcher. And he's going to one-handed snag this and reel it in. And now we're on the 2-yard line for 1st and goal. Well, 3rd and goal, but you get the point. But either way, people believe he's going to be a blocker so much that they believe it almost every single time. And you can take advantage of that as an offense. So here it is again, where I think I lost him on this one. Let's go back a little bit so we can find him again. So this is him right here. This is another great play. I remember seeing this one. So Nico's going to drop back, and Kitsleman on this play is going to serve as your check down receiver. But what happens at this defense is NC State is matching up in a QB spy. Nico has a great ability to scramble with his legs, and they don't want to allow him that opportunity to get out of the pocket and scramble and convert this 2nd and 3 situation. So they have a lot of deep concepts going on right now. So what's going to happen is Kitsleman's going to play 2 different roles here. He's going to kind of serve as a blocker here, but then what he's going to do is immediately when nothing's happening, Nico has nowhere to go with the ball, what happens is he's reading these defenders. And he's watching there in a QB spy, and right when one of them starts to make a break towards the quarterback, he's watching with his eyes. That's the moment where he's like, okay, I need to twist my head around, and I need to become a receiver now, so that way Nico can help convert this, spins around, makes himself available, is able to diagnose when the defense is trying to go after and get him, and then make himself available for this offense, catches it, and gets some good yards after catch. What a play. So here we go. What's that? Another 15, 16, 17-yard gain? Oh, yeah. So here we go. We got him again, selling his role as a blocker. So this is where I think he flourishes most, is when he's in an inline role. He sells the fact that he's in a block right here, literally gets connected with this guy, gets hands on him, sheds the block, and then just wide open. Wide open. This is where I think, especially in the NFL, where everybody views him as this late round pick, he's probably going to translate to being a backup tight end in some type of capacity, but will end up on the field in these 12 and 13 personnel situations. The scouting report for a lot of these defenders is going to be like, they just have this guy out as another blocker. Don't worry about him as a pass catcher. And I see a lot of these NFL coaching staffs taking advantage of that. They know what the scouting report says. Let's go at the guy that no one expects to catch this ball. So here he is again, selling the block, gets north, catches a touchdown. You see a lot of this in goal line situations. A lot of these plays that I see when I'm watching his film are taking place in goal line situations where they need a score. So they're in a close, well, not really a close game. They're kicking the crap out of Syracuse here. But either way, they really target him in really important situations. So here he is again in an inline roll right here. And we're probably going to see a lot of what we've seen from him. So he fakes like he's going out there to the flat, reads how the defender plays this. Right when he kind of overcommits himself, that's where he puts his foot in the ground, goes around him, goes up those hash marks, and is able to get a nice little gain. And they have to tackle him low because he's just too big. So let's see another one here. So this is another one. I think we've got him right here. And this is going to be another play that we've seen him do a lot of. This is going to be that out route that we know and love. We just need some quick scoring right here to convert on a 3rd and 13 situation. Hit him there and is able to really throw his shoulder down. And he's really good at falling forward and taking that extra 2-3 yards that comes in that process. So while he may not be the most athletic to juke or get his hand up or avoid some of these tacklers, he's really physical at the tackle point and really able to kind of chunk out those last few yards to really maximize what he's doing for this team. And I don't want to go through too many receiving highlights either. I don't want to get too bogged down with all of that. But what I do want to find is I want to get some blocking highlights for him. Okay, so we're in the blocking highlights. But to kind of summarize the receiving stuff that I've seen with Kitsleman is you can line him up out in the slot, and he's shown some success being able to play that role. And I think he could actually be pretty strategically used in those situations, in screen pass or RPO situations, where you want a strong blocking tight end out there to kind of help fill up some space for these wide receivers who are catching the screen pass to go and make plays. He can line up in a fullback pseudo type of role and then especially flourish in inline situations, especially in 12 and 13 personnel. So now here we are. We've seen a lot of receiving highlights. Now let's get to the blocks. So this is where he flourishes right here. So he's over here on the right side, and they're going to motion him across. They're going to pull him across the line of scrimmage here to be another blocker, but now he's able to sprint across this line of scrimmage and develop a head of steam, and you're going to watch him pick up one of these linebackers and just drive him completely out of this play. Picks up the linebacker, drives, and just completely eats up that linebacker and makes it so he's unable to get involved and make a play on that football. And it's plays like that where I think he's got a lot of opportunity as a run blocker, and later on in this film you'll see opportunities where I think he can still develop there. But now we've got him in an inline role, and this is going to be another run situation. This is a designed quarterback run. And what's going to happen here is they're pulling one of their offensive linemen right here. So Kitsleman knows that whoever the boundary guy is over here, even if he blitzes, that he doesn't have to worry about because they've got the guy pulling. He needs to make sure he has this inside guy right here, which ends up being the defensive end. So he takes on the defensive end and is able to hold that block, and keep it so he can't even get a handover. Everyone else does their job, and Aguilar is able to scramble in for a nice 6 points. Here's Kitsleman right here once again. So is this a passing situation, I believe? Let's take a look at it again. So they're going to fake the handoff, and once again, they're pulling an offensive lineman in this situation. So Kitsleman once again knows, even though they're blitzing this linebacker right here, he just needs to make sure that whoever the inside guy is now, he's operating almost as the tackle in this situation, taking over this edge rusher right here. He bats him, lets him bounce off and kind of go off to the edge and keeps him out of the play. Unfortunately, this was a throwaway, but it was because of the pulling offensive lineman that just could not seal that edge rush that resulted in the throwaway. But Kitsleman did a great job keeping his guy out of the play. So here, what we're going to see is number 9. You're going to see him really move across this line of scrimmage. And what's going to happen is right when they snap the ball, you're going to see these guys all shift and take inside paths. So they stunted the defensive tackle. Then they had the edge come and take an inside route. And then number 9 now is going to try and sweep all the way around and take kind of that edge pressure route. So for offensive linemen, there's a lot of different moving parts here. And these 4 guys on this side of the field really need to be able to use their eyes, keep their heads up, and diagnose this stuff as it's happening. And you can see Kitsleman's heads up. He's watching this safety shift over, shift over, shift over. And as this play develops, he sees that he's putting a foot in the ground and he's coming over. So instead of trying to help out and get tangled up in this stunt and not even notice that 9 is coming through, he's able to bounce out, get some pressure on him, and keep him completely out of this play. That's just great awareness by Kitsleman to be able to diagnose that. And had that safety gotten through, that run play would have been a whole different situation. Here we go. We see him. Doesn't really do much on this play, but he chips him there and then gets out to take the corner pressure that's coming, which kept the pocket clean and allowed him to be able to get some touchdown points right there for the team. All right, so here we go again. We've got a linebacker or a safety, I can't really tell with some of these Georgia players, coming downhill, and the entire time he's selling like he's going to be taking this edge route right here. So Kitsleman aligns himself in a way to be prepared to take that on. And at the last moment, he puts a foot in the ground. He sees this wide open lane to go and get to Aguilar, the quarterback. And so he's going to put a foot in the ground and accelerate directly to this quarterback. But Kitsleman is locked on this the entire way and shows great awareness to be able to shuffle over and redirect him completely out of the pocket and out of this play for Aguilar so he can get a nice standing, clean throw out. So here we go. We got a fake stretch situation. So they fake the stretch. And then now we've got a linebacker coming downhill with a head of steam. And for anybody who's ever tried to do this, try to stop a, 220, 230-pound guy with 6-7 yards in front of him to be able to charge up this block right here. So he runs in. Kitsleman he's going to get hit from it, but he's able to stand tall, absorb the contact, and keep him away from Aguilar. Unfortunately, this was a dropped pass. It was a little inaccurate and low, but Kitsleman did a great job allowing the quarterback to have a clean pocket to make that throw. All right, so now I think we're going to move into some of the run blocking stuff, and this is where I think Kitsleman can still develop as a player. So he has the size, and I think he has the intuition of what he needs to do as a blocker. I just think he needs to continue practicing getting that shoulder height lower, especially against some of these smaller defenders, like these linebackers at the second level, that he's going to find himself blocking quite a bit as a tight end. So he does a great job getting to where he needs to do and get hands on the right guy. So he gets up and he gets hands on this linebacker, but his pad height is so high, it's above these linebackers. And because of that, he's so upright right now that he can just get moved around and thrown around wherever, which makes it really difficult to move this linebacker off his spot. If he gets a lower pad height and gets real low and explosive against this linebacker, he can really drive him completely out of this play. But when we look at everything else, this offensive lineman is able to keep him off of his spot. 72's coming downhill with a head of steam, and this play is going to get blown up because this linebacker is now able to fight around this block from Kitsleman and get completely in the way and stop this from developing any further. And we see it once again right here. Gets north and south, and then you see the guy making the tackle, he fights around Kitsleman's block, and it's all because Kitsleman isn't able to get low enough to really drive him out of these plays. So for that reason, I think there's opportunity to develop as a run blocker a little bit more. But when it comes to pass protection and it comes to inline rolls, I think that Kitsleman really flourishes, and I think he's an underrated in the versatility department, whether it's lining up as a fullback, as a slot receiver, as an inline guy, using him in pass pro, in run protection. You can use him in so many different ways, and I think it's so underrated, his versatility and what he brings. And he did all of this against SEC competition his entire career, whether it was at Alabama or whether it was his 2 years that he was with Tennessee. This is top-level competition. This is pro-level competition that he's playing. And where I think he would flourish, and oh my goodness, that is so bright, is once again in 12 and 13 personnel where there's multiple tight ends out in the field, and he can play primarily as a additional blocking tight end, especially in passing situations, but then also have opportunities to kind of be a sneaky second tight end receiving option out of these formations when they decide to integrate some of those play action situations. So what I have right here is it's a chart that breaks down a lot of different stats. And what I want to use this for is I set it up to just 13 personnel. So this is a list now of who ran 13 personnel the most in the NFL this past season. And ranked number 4 right here was the Jacksonville Jaguars with 1,093 plays in 13 personnel. And what's more important about all of this is their EPA per pass, how efficient they were as a passing offense in 13 personnel, was ranked second in the NFL. So we look at Jacksonville. This is a team that comes from that same type of Kyle Shanahan, Sean McVay type of philosophy. And oh my goodness, that is so bright. He comes from that same philosophy that really emphasizes the run first off, and then using a lot of heavier multiple tight end sets like 12 personnel and 13 personnel to really emphasize that run game, but then maintaining that formation and diversifying it with play action schemes off of that to continue to keep the defense guessing. And this is where I look now at Jacksonville's roster. They've got Brenton Strange, who was an IR guy last year, primarily a vertical receiving tight end, who isn't really well known for his blocking abilities. And then Quentin Morris, Hunter Long, and Patrick Herbert, who are kind of just depth roster pieces at this point. I think Kitsleman is a guy who not only fits what they like to do to a T, is being really efficient in passing situations out of 13 personnel, but I think he's a guy who can contribute right away. I think Jacksonville could use an extremely late pick on this guy, get him into their roster, and now they've got a versatile plug-and-play piece that can help them flourish in 13 personnel, 12 personnel. He adds an element as a blocking tight end in pass pro and run pro that they otherwise just don't have. And I just view him as a huge steal that would really fit the philosophy that they're doing in Jacksonville. But more importantly than that, Jacksonville is a team right now that's really trying to build a foundation for themselves. They're a young team who last year brought in a new head coach, brought in a new GM, and they're really trying to compete in a pretty competitive division with the Indianapolis Colts, the Jacksonville Jaguars, the Houston Texans, and now the Tennessee Titans, who just hired Robert Saleh, have Cam Ward, and are really trying to go on the rise. So they need strong leadership and guys that understand what it means to win and to do all the dirty work that needs to be done to be able to make those wins happen. And Kitsleman was a guy who I think GMs are going to love because of his experience as a strong leader, a guy who is well respected in the locker room in his organization, and a guy who isn't afraid to do the dirty work to be able to help this team win. And for that reason, I really think that the Jacksonville Jaguars should target this guy. But I think he would flourish in so many different offenses with many different teams. And I think a lot of teams would really welcome this type of skill set. So while he's only ranked right now as an early 7th round draft pick, I think that this guy could be worth upwards of a 5th round draft pick or potentially a late 4, depending on how the tight end board falls in this upcoming draft. I view him as a very underrated talent, specifically because of the fact he does a lot of those things that just don't show up on the stat sheet. But let me know what you think of Miles Kitsleman. Let me know what you think of this draft. Let me know what you think of these tight ends. And I'm going to continue dropping these types of things as we lead up to the April 2026 NFL mock draft. But with that being said, I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.